Stop scrolling for 1 second. If you were about to buy a Mac Mini just to hook it up to your TV, don't. Not yet. Let me explain why in this video. Apple is sitting on a brand new Apple TV right now. The hardware is already built. It's already sitting in Apple's own offices, being used by Apple's own employees. And it's not coming out yet on purpose. In this video, I'm going to break down everything about it. The new chip, the RAM, the Wi-Fi 7 speed, Bluetooth 6, a possible built-in camera for FaceTime, real gaming power, full audio and video specs with exact numbers, not guesses, Siri turning into actual AI tvOS 27 and everything new inside it. And I'll compare it directly with Roku, Fire TV, and even the PlayStation. And yes, I'll give you the release date. A clear answer, not soon, not maybe this year. An actual window based on what Apple itself has already confirmed. I'll also walk you through every single problem the current Apple TV has, and how the new one fixes almost all of them. Let's get into it. When is IT actually coming? Let's kill the confusion first. The new Apple TV is not a rumor anymore. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, who has one of the best track records on Apple leaks, says the hardware has been finished for months. Done. Sitting in a box. Apple employees at their Cupertino headquarters are already using it daily. So why isn't it out? Because Apple is holding it back for one reason only: Siri. The new Apple TV is built around a smarter, more personal version of Siri, and that version of Siri got delayed. Apple originally wanted to launch it in spring 2026. It didn't happen. Then people hoped for WWDC in June. It still wasn't ready for hardware. Apple has now confirmed the new Siri is landing with iOS 27, iPadOS 27, and macOS 27. Those updates go public in September 2026. tvOS 27 is part of that same family. So here's your clear answer: the new Apple TV is expected in or after September 2026, most likely lining up with the iPhone 18 launch. Not before. If you're waiting to buy, that's the window to watch. One more thing. This isn't the first time this device has been almost ready. Gurman flagged possible launch windows back in 2025 that came and went. So September is the most solid estimate we have, but Apple has missed windows on this exact product before. Keep that in mind. Price: what change already? Here's something most people missed. In June 2026, Apple quietly raised the price of the current Apple TV 4K. The 64GB model went from $129 to $199. The 128GB model with Ethernet went from $149 to $249. That's a huge jump for a box that's already almost 4 years old and running an outdated chip. Why bring this up? Because it tells you something. Apple doesn't raise the price of an old product for no reason. It usually means new stock is being phased out and something new is coming to replace it. For the actual new model, leaks point to Apple trying to hold pricing close to where it used to be, somewhere between $140 and $200 for the standard version. There's also talk of a higher Pro tier, possibly starting around $350, that would come with Wi-Fi 7, more storage, and the strongest chip option. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo has said Apple's real sweet spot for pricing this device is actually under $100 to compete harder with cheap streaming sticks. Whether Apple actually goes that low is still an open question. Nothing here is locked in until Apple says it publicly, so treat the price as a range, not a promise. The chip, where the real upgrade is. Let's talk about the chip. And I promise, this won't be boring. I'll explain it in plain language. The current Apple TV runs the A15 Bionic. That's the same chip that powered the iPhone 13 back in 2021. It's old, it struggles with modern software, and it flat out cannot run Apple's on-device AI features. The new Apple TV is expected to jump to the A17 Pro. That's the chip Apple first put in the iPhone 15 Pro. Here's why that jump actually matters, not just as a number, but in real use. The A17 Pro is built on a 3nm process. Smaller transistors means more power packed into the same size chip and better efficiency, so it runs cooler and uses less electricity for the same task. It has a 6-core GPU with hardware-accelerated ray tracing. Ray tracing means the chip can calculate how light actually bounces off surfaces in real time. That's the difference between a game that looks flat and a game where light and shadows behave like real life. Consoles like the PS5 use ray tracing too. This is the first time that kind of graphics tech comes to an Apple streaming box. It also has a 16-core neural engine capable of around 35 trillion operations per second. That's the part of the chip built specifically for AI tasks, processing Siri requests, running voice recognition, generating on-screen recommendations, all locally on the device instead of sending everything to the cloud. And here's the part that really matters: Apple has a hard rule. No device runs Apple Intelligence with less than 8 GB of RAM. The A17 Pro is also the minimum chip Apple currently allows for its AI features. So this chip choice isn't random. It's literally the entry ticket for AI on Apple TV. One thing worth knowing, because Apple has delayed this device for so long, some leakers now think Apple might skip straight to an even newer chip, like the A18 or A19, instead of the A17 Pro. Nothing is confirmed yet, but it tells you Apple has had plenty of time to reconsider the chip while this device sat on the shelf. RAM and storage, quick one, but an important one. The current Apple TV has 4 GB of RAM. That's the ceiling that's blocking Apple Intelligence entirely on the current model. Doesn't matter how many software updates Apple pushes, 4 GB is not enough, full stop. The new model is expected to jump to 8 GB of RAM. That's double. That's what unlocks AI features, faster multitasking between apps, and smoother performance when Siri, HomeKit, and streaming are all running at once. Storage is expected to stay the same for now, 64 GB and 128 GB options, the same as today. If a higher-end Pro version happens, expect that one to come with more storage, aimed at people who install a lot of Apple Arcade games. Wi-Fi 7, the real numbers, this is one of the biggest upgrades, and most videos gloss over it. Let's actually look at the numbers. The current Apple TV uses Wi-Fi 6. The new one is expected to use Apple's own N1 chip, which brings Wi-Fi 7 support. This is Apple's first self-designed wireless chip. Before this, Apple bought these chips from other companies like Broadcom. Wi-Fi 7 works on the newer 6 GHz band, which is far less crowded than the old 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz bands your neighbor's routers are all fighting over. It supports channels up to 320 MHz wide. That's 4 times wider than what Wi-Fi 6E offers. Wider channels mean more data moving at once. Wi-Fi 7 also uses something called multi-link operation, or MLO. In simple words, your device can use multiple Wi-Fi bands at the exact same time instead of picking just one. That means less buffering and a much more stable connection when a lot of devices are active in your house at once. On paper, Wi-Fi 7 can theoretically hit speeds over 40 gigabits per second. Real-world speeds will never touch that. Your internet plan and your router matter more than the chip. But the real benefit for you is stability. Fewer drops during 4K HDR streaming. Faster AirPlay from your iPhone. Quicker connections to your HomePod. One honest note here: when Apple's N1 chip launched in the iPhone 17, FCC filings showed it was limited to 160 MHz channels, not the full 320 MHz Wi-Fi 7 allows. So even with Wi-Fi 7 branding, don't expect the absolute maximum theoretical speed. It's still a big jump from Wi-Fi 6. Just don't expect magic numbers. Bluetooth 6.0, the N1 chip doesn't just bring Wi-Fi 7. It also brings Bluetooth 6.0, up from Bluetooth 5.0 on the current model. What does that actually change for you? A few real things: lower latency, under 20 milliseconds in ideal conditions. That matters if you're using a game controller. Less delay between your button press and what happens on screen. Better performance in crowded spaces. If you've got a phone, a smartwatch, headphones, and a game controller all connected near your TV at once, Bluetooth 6 handles that traffic jam far better than the older standard. Lower power draw, so your Siri remote and any Bluetooth accessories last longer between charges. Better multi-stream audio, useful if you're pairing 2 sets of AirPods to the same Apple TV to watch something together without a cable or a splitter. Range also improves slightly with Bluetooth 6, giving you more breathing room before your controller or remote starts lagging. Siri, Apple Intelligence, and the remote. Now the part everyone's actually waiting for: AI. The whole reason this Apple TV has been sitting on a shelf for months is Siri. Apple is finally shipping a completely rebuilt version of Siri with iOS 27. It's more conversational. It understands context better. It's built to actually have a back-and-forth conversation with you instead of just reacting to one command at a time. On Apple TV specifically, this changes how you search. Right now, you either type or say an exact show name. With the new Siri, you'll be able to ask for a movie by describing the mood, the actor, a director, or even just what you feel like watching, and it should actually understand you. As for the remote, the current Siri remote has a built-in microphone. Leaks suggest Apple might move that microphone off the remote and into the base unit of the Apple TV itself instead. One reason an always-listening remote would drain its battery fast. Moving the mic to the box, which is always plugged into power, solves that problem completely. Don't expect the remote to become some kind of always-on AI assistant with its own brain. Apple is being deliberately careful here around battery life and privacy. Audio, let's go deep here. I want to slow down for this section because audio deserves real detail, not a one-line mention. Starting with what the Apple TV already supports today, so you understand the baseline Dolby Digital 5.1, Dolby Digital Plus with 7.1 surround sound, and full Dolby Atmos support. It also handles Apple lossless, FLAC, and standard lossless audio from 16-bit at 44.1 chaos up to 24-bit at 48 chaos. Now here's the audio pass-through part, because a lot of people misunderstand this. Audio pass-through means the Apple TV doesn't try to decode or change the sound itself. Instead, it sends the raw, untouched audio signal, including all the Dolby Atmos object data, straight through the HDMI cable to your soundbar or AV receiver. Your receiver then does the decoding. This matters because it means you get the full, uncompressed version of the mix, exactly how the movie studio mixed it, with zero quality loss along the way. If your setup supports Dolby Atmos already, pass-through is what lets that whole experience actually reach your speakers properly. For tvOS 27, leaks point to something audiophiles have wanted for a while: high-res lossless playback for Apple Music, up to 24-bit at 192 Ks. That's a real jump above the standard lossless tier the Apple TV supports today. If you've got a proper hi-fi setup connected through your TV or receiver, that's a genuinely noticeable improvement in detail and clarity. Apple Music itself is also getting 2 new features that will show up on Apple TV through tvOS 27 Auto Mix, which blends songs into each other like a DJ would, and crossfade, smoother transitions between tracks. Small features, but they make Apple TV feel more like an actual home audio hub, not just a video box that happens to play music. And connectivity-wise, streaming your Apple TV's audio output to a HomePod or a pair of HomePods for stereo sound is expected to get noticeably faster and more reliable with tvOS 27, thanks to quicker AirPlay connections between Apple devices. Video resolution, refresh rate, and the 8K Truth Now video kept completely separate from audio so we don't mix things up. The current Apple TV supports 4K resolution, Dolby Vision Profile 5, HDR10+, HDR10, and HLG. Solid, but starting to show its age against 2026 TVs. The biggest expected video upgrade is the HDMI port itself. Right now, Apple TV uses an older HDMI signaling method. Leaks say the new model could switch its HDMI 2.1 port to full 48 gigabits per second and FRL signaling, the proper high bandwidth mode HDMI 2.1 is actually capable of. That single change is what unlocks 4K at 120A's output instead of being capped lower. Why does 120A's matter beyond gaming? Smoother motion, sports look cleaner. Camera pans in movies look less juddery, and it opens the door to Dolby Vision 2, a newer, smarter version of Dolby Vision that can automatically adjust picture quality based on your specific TV and room lighting, rather than using one fixed setting for everyone. Now, about 8K, because I know people ask. Don't expect it. Multiple sources agree 8K support isn't coming with this model. 3 real reasons: even the iPhone 17 Pro camera can't shoot native 8K video, there's barely any 8K content available to stream anywhere right now, and the internet bandwidth 8K needs would choke most home networks. So no, this isn't an 8K Apple TV. What the stronger neural engine could realistically help with is smarter upscaling of your existing 4K and HD content, similar to what high-end smart TVs already do with AI. That's a reasonable expectation based on the hardware, not a confirmed leaked feature, so I want to be straight with you about that distinction. Ethernet quick but useful. The current higher storage Apple TV model includes a gigabit Ethernet port, which also enables Thread support for smart home devices. That combination is expected to carry over to the new lineup, likely on the higher tier model, the same way it works today. If a wired, rock-solid connection matters to you, for zero buffering 4K streaming or for running your smart home reliably, that's the version to look for when it launches. Gaming, is this actually a console killer? Let's be honest about this one, because I don't want to oversell it to you. With the A17 Pro's ray tracing GPU and something called Metal FX, Apple's version of AI-powered upscaling that renders games at a lower resolution internally, then sharpens them up to look near native, the new Apple TV should genuinely handle more demanding games than it ever has before. Apple Arcade titles will run smoother, look sharper, and hold higher frame rates. But here's the honest part. Real high-end console gaming needs active cooling, an actual fan, to sustain that kind of performance for hours. The Apple TV doesn't have one, largely to stay silent in your living room. That's likely one reason Apple TV probably won't try to go head-to-head with a PS5 or Xbox on raw AIA gaming power anytime soon. What it can realistically become is the best version yet of a casual, controller-friendly gaming box, no separate console needed for Apple Arcade, no extra subscription fee beyond what you might already pay, and tvOS 27 is reportedly bring better controller settings and clearer game discovery to make that experience less clunky than it is today. So is it a console killer? Not in raw power, But for someone who just wants solid casual gaming without buying a separate $500 box, it's getting a lot more credible. FaceTime Camera, real or not? This one's interesting, and it's been floating around for a while. Right now, FaceTime on Apple TV works through something called Continuity Camera. Your iPhone acts as the webcam, and you have to prop it up and pair it every single time. It works, but it's genuinely inconvenient. There have been persistent rumors that Apple wants to add a built-in camera directly into the Apple TV box itself, likely with center stage tech that keeps you framed in shot as you move around the room. If that happens, it would turn Apple TV into an actual video calling hub, hands-free, no propped-up phone required. I have to be straight with you here, though. This is one of the lower confidence rumors on this entire list. Some reports call it unconfirmed and lower confidence. It's also possible Apple saves this feature for a different device entirely. There are separate rumors about a dedicated Apple Smart Home Hub with its own screen and camera, which is a different product from the Apple TV box we're talking about today. So a built-in camera on this exact device is possible, but don't bank on it. Smart Home Hub controlling your house from your TV, the Apple TV already works as a HomeKit hub today. The new model is expected to push that much further. With the N1 chip's built-in Thread radio and better Matter support, Matter being the universal smart home standard that lets devices from different brands talk to each other, your Apple TV becomes a stronger, faster center point for every smart light, lock, thermostat, and sensor in your house. With tvOS 27, HomeKit Secure Video gets 4K camera recording support, and that processing happens on-device or through Apple's private cloud system, not sent off to some random server. So when your video doorbell rings, you can see it on your TV in a much higher quality, and Apple is keeping that description and search processing private by design. Connecting to HomePods also gets tighter here, using your Apple TV and HomePod together as a synced audio system, or controlling your home devices by voice through whichever one is nearest to you, is all part of this same push toward a more connected setup. tvOS 27, the full list of upgrades, let's cover software on its own properly. Apple confirmed tvOS 27 is landing later this year, and while Apple barely mentioned it on stage at WWDC, there's more here than people expected. App launches are expected to be around 30% faster. Control Center becomes noticeably more responsive. AirPlay connections between your Apple devices speed up too. The Podcast app gets a full redesign, matching the version on iPhone and iPad, and now supports video podcasts directly with a proper sidebar and creator artwork, not just audio. There's a new Smart Downloads feature for managing content better on the device. A new larger text accessibility option lets you increase text size across tvOS menus, genuinely useful if you're watching from across a large room. High-res lossless Apple Music playback, auto mix, and crossfade, which we already covered under audio. And one detail worth knowing, tvOS 27 drop support for two very old devices, the 2015 Apple TV HD and the first generation Apple TV 4K from 2017. If you own either of those, this is the year your device stops getting new software. Old Apple TV problems and how the new one fixes them, let's tie this together. Here's exactly what was wrong with the current model, one by one, and what changes. Old chip, the A15, couldn't run any AI features at all. Fixed with the A17 Pro or newer 4GB of RAM was a hard wall against Apple Intelligence. Fixed with 8GB. Wi-Fi 6 struggled on crowded networks. Fixed with Wi-Fi 7 and the N1 chip. Bluetooth 5.0 had more lag and weaker range for controllers. Fixed with Bluetooth 6.0. No real camera, forcing you to prop up your iPhone every time you wanted to FaceTime. Possibly fixed if the camera rumor holds up. Siri felt basic and often misunderstood requests. Fixed with the new conversational Siri built on Apple Intelligence. And the price of the old model just jumped to $199 and $249 in June 2026, making it a much harder sell against what's coming. Quick, honest comparison. Roku and Fire TV Stick are cheaper. Some models start around $30 to $60, but their home screens are packed with ads, and they don't come close on raw processing power or on privacy. What you're paying extra for with Apple TV is a completely ad-free interface, tighter privacy, and deep integration with your iPhone, HomePod, and Apple Watch that those platforms simply can't match. Against a PlayStation 5, there's no real competition on power, and there probably won't be. The PS5 has active cooling and is built purely for gaming. Apple TV is a streaming device that's gaining gaming ability as a bonus, not a console that added streaming. So think of it this way: cheapest option, go Fire TV or Roku. Best raw gaming power, get a real console. But if you're already deep in the Apple ecosystem and you want one small box that streams, plays casual games, runs your smart home, and talks to your other Apple devices without any setup hassle, this new Apple TV is shaping up to be the strongest all-in-one option Apple has ever made for the living room. Back to how we opened this video. Here's my honest take, not a wild claim. I'm not telling you a $200 box is going to out-render a Mac Studio. That's a different category of machine entirely, built for real professional work. But think about why a lot of people actually buy a Mac Mini for their TV setup in the first place. Usually it's for exactly this: media playback, casual apps, some light gaming, smart home control, AirPlay, and general convenience on the big screen. For that specific use case, a simple, capable box sitting under your TV, the new Apple TV, with a proper modern chip, 8 GB of RAM, ray tracing, Wi-Fi 7, and a real smart home hub built-in, covers almost everything that use case actually needs. And it does it for a fraction of the price of even the cheapest Mac Mini. So if your plan was buy a Mac Mini just to hook up to the TV, pump the brakes. Wait for this instead. Save your Mac Mini budget for when you actually need a real computer. Outro/questions for you. Alright, that's genuinely everything we know right now, backed by real leaks, real analyst reporting, and Apple's own confirmed tvOS 27 details. Now I want to hear from you. Are you still using the 2022 Apple TV, or did you already move to Roku or Fire TV? Would you actually pay extra for a built-in FaceTime camera, or is that just a gimmick to you? And that Mac Mini question, team wait or team just buy the Mac Mini anyway? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every one of them. If this saved you from buying the wrong box at the wrong time, that's exactly why I made it. See you in the next video.